On June 11th, one of the greatest pop geniuses the world has ever known was reunited with his younger brothers, Carl and Dennis. Brian Wilson, the creative mastermind behind the Beach Boys, passed away at the age of 82. As is always the case with legendary artists, he leaves behind a musical legacy that will forever be cherished by fans of his work. Many renowned musicians responded with heartfelt and glowing tributes to Wilson's artistry. He will be deeply missed in the music world, and far beyond. The genius that was Brian Wilson is difficult to put into words. His talent seemed to come from another dimension. To pay proper tribute to the last of the Beach Boy brothers, we dedicate this episode to the beautiful In My Room, written by Gary Usher and the maestro himself. At the time, Cashbox described it as a tearful, oh-so-smooth ballad. Brian Wilson is no longer with us, but he will live on forever through his magnificent music. Hello, and welcome to a new episode of We're Only in It for the Music, a brand new YouTube series that takes you on a musical journey through videos about pop, rock, jazz, blues, soul, and funk. In other words, from ABBA to Zappa and everything in between. If you're enjoying this series, don't forget to click like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you'll always be the first to know when a new episode drops. But enough of that. Never mind the bollocks. We're only in it for the music. In this song review, we dissect the melancholic masterpiece In My Room from 1963 by the Beach Boys. Leave your surfboard at home, because this stunning song is in a completely different league than Surfin' Safari, Surfin' USA, or Fun, Fun, Fun. By the late summer of 1963, the Beach Boys already had 3 albums under their belt. The year before, the world had been introduced to the band through their debut album, Surfin' Safari. The craze caught on quickly, prompting Capitol Records to demand no fewer than 3 new albums the following year. Surfin' USA and Surfer Girl faithfully followed the proven formula of carefree songs about girls, sunshine, California, beaches, and lots of surfing. Since most teenagers in the Midwest had likely never even seen a coastline, a second market was tapped into with songs about cars, first heard on Little Deuce Coupe, released in October of that same year. At the time, Capitol was essentially working with 2 formulas: surf music for the teens on the West Coast, and car songs for the fans further inland. Surfer Girl, the middle album of the 3, included. Alongside all the ocean-themed teen pop, a surprisingly introspective track, Side B of the original LP opened with In My Room, a song in which Brian Wilson, for the first time, offers listeners a glimpse into the deepest corners of his soul. The song may have stood out stylistically among all the catchy surf tunes. Only the title track shared a somewhat melancholic tone, yet still carried the successful surf label. In My Room immediately emerged as the standout track on an otherwise interchangeable surf album. Never before had the lead singer of a pop band made up of teenage heartthrobs explored the potential of what a song could be, beyond being radio-friendly and a potential hit. On later Beach Boys albums, Wilson would increasingly shift toward introspection, slowly dialing down the sunny surf hits. This change in direction was not appreciated. Not by Capitol Records, not by Father Wilson, the Beach Boys' then manager, and not by his brothers.
You ain't gonna be on Beach Boy. Oh, hell no. You didn't just touch my goddamn radio.
The Beach Boys are great American music.
The Beach Boys gonna get you a great ass whooping. Don't you ever touch a black man's radio, boy. You can do that in training, but you can get your ass killed out here, man.
Songfacts.com wrote about this song. This is written from the perspective of a teenager who feels safe and comfortable in his bedroom. Brian Wilson suffered from severe agoraphobia and refused to leave his bedroom for a significant amount of time. He wrote this song to give people an idea of how he felt. In a 1990 interview, Brian Wilson explained it himself. When Dennis, Carl, and I lived in Hawthorne as kids, we all slept in the same room. One night, I sang the song Ivory Tower to them, and they liked it. Then a couple of weeks later, I proceeded to teach them both how to sing the harmony parts to it. It took them a little while, but they finally learned it. We then sang this song night after night. It brought peace to us. When we recorded in my room, there was just Dennis, Carl, and me on the first verse. And we sounded just like we did in our bedroom all those nights. This story has more meaning than ever since Dennis's death. The lyrics of the song, with the simplest of words, perfectly capture Wilson's teenage anxiety. While many teens experience the solitude of their bedrooms as lonely or isolating, Brian instead sings about comfort and safety. The outside world was simply too overwhelming for someone as sensitive as Brian Wilson. Only in his room could he feel somewhat at ease, letting go of his fears and demons. You could argue that In My Room is the genesis of what would later become the musical style and emotional depth of Pet Sounds. The surfboards had been thrown overboard. The songs about California girls and cars were gone. Although Wilson would never completely abandon those themes and would revisit them with great success in later years. As young and innocent as the three brothers may sound in perfect harmony here, the song clearly marks a coming-of-age moment. Brian Wilson suffered from anxiety, depression, and various mental health struggles throughout his life. Being able to channel his vulnerable soul through creativity must have felt deeply liberating, perhaps even healing.
Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys. I remember the song. It's called Darlin' by the Beach Boys. Oh, thank goodness! I'm not crazy. I don't have to take a pigeon as my bride.
Because In My Room was tucked away among all the happy-go-lucky surf songs and was only released as the B-side to the single Be True to Your School, it perhaps never gained the recognition it truly deserved. Be True to Your School was a minor top 10 hit in 1963, but not many people can recall it today. The B-side, on the other hand, has only grown in emotional resonance over the years, as reflected by the number of cover versions it has inspired. The song has long been a fan favorite. In My Lonely Room by Martha and the Vandellas from 1964, written by the trio Brian Holland, Lamont Dozier, and Edward Holland Jr. for Motown's hit machine, may well suggest that In My Room also influenced Detroit's soul music, specifically through this song. There's even a German-language version, recorded under the title Ganz allein, which translates to completely alone, with lyrics written by a former German girlfriend of Mike Love. This version was part of a marketing strategy that was common in the 1960s. Major American artists often recorded their hits in other languages, especially German, French, Italian, and Spanish, to better appeal to international markets. In addition to Elvis Presley's Muss I Denn, later known as Wooden Heart, the Beatles did the same with Sei lieb dich and Komm, gib mir deine Hand. That said, it's certainly not the German version that gives you goosebumps. On the original English studio recording, we hear the 5 original Beach Boys. The 3 Wilson brothers, joined by cousin Mike Love and loyal bandmate Al Jardine. They were supported by early Beach Boys member David Lee Marks and Wrecking Crew members Hal Blaine and harpist Maureen Love, sister of Mike Love. Co-writer Gary Usher said, In My Room found us taking our craft a little more seriously. Brian and I came back to the house one night after playing over the line, a type of baseball game. I played bass and Brian was on organ. The song was written in an hour. Brian's melody all the way. The sensitivity. The concept meant a lot to him. When we finished, it was late, after our midnight curfew. In fact, Murray, the Wilson brothers' father, came in a couple of times and wanted me to leave. Anyway, we got Audrey, Brian's mother, who was putting her hair up before bed, and we played it for her. She said, "That's the most beautiful song you've ever written." Murray said, "Not bad, Usher, not bad," which was the nicest thing he ever said to me. Usher further described how Brian was always saying that his room was his whole world. Brian Wilson affirmed that sentiment. I had a room, and I thought of it as my kingdom. And I wrote that song, very definitely, that you're not afraid when you're in your room. It's absolutely true. Most people will forever associate the Beach Boys with the cheerful surf songs of the early 1960s. And rightly so. Their early work is inseparably linked to the feeling of beach, sea, surfing, and the endless summer. But those who dig deeper into the band's catalog and allow themselves to be swept away by the albums released from the mid-60s onward will hear a slow and steady shift. Brian Wilson wanted to compete with the Beatles, especially with Paul McCartney, and with each new album, he tried to outdo him. This period, widely considered by fans, critics, and fellow musicians to be the Beach Boys' artistic peak, saw the sun-drenched themes gradually fade into the background while a new sound emerged. Brian's lyrics, sometimes written with a co-writer, became more introspective, the music more melancholic. In My Room is a textbook example of that change. The man Wilson looked up to and longed to surpass musically. Paul McCartney once said, "I've often played Pet Sounds and cried." As much as I love the sunny hits, I've always been more drawn to the Beach Boys' melancholic side. Do You Want a Dance is fun for a nostalgic party, but songs like Caroline, No, or Don't Talk, Put Your Head on My Shoulder cut right to the soul. Music that is so beautiful, it can move you to tears. I once actually left a gathering at the home of now former friends, simply because they couldn't appreciate Caroline, No.
Screw you guys, I'm going home. But Carmen, we're trying to... screw you guys, home.
But that's a story for another time. A few years ago, I saw Brian Wilson perform Pet Sounds live in its entirety. Before the intermission, he played many well-known hits, and somewhere between Salt Lake City and Surfer Girl, he performed In My Room. Other highlights of the evening, in addition to the complete Pet Sounds album, included Sail On, Sailor, and the finale, Wilson's solo hit Love and Mercy. I had seen the man life on stage. Mission accomplished. Although, by that time, you were really going more for the legend than the talent he once was. Wilson was already a shadow of himself, and for much of the concert, he sat looking a bit lost behind his piano. But of course, he was forgiven. Even if he hadn't played a single note, he would have received a standing ovation. This man had nothing left to prove. A few years later, I heard that Wilson had canceled an upcoming tour due to his mental health deteriorating again. Doctors had ordered rest, and Brian stayed home to recover. His fan club asked fans to send a letter or card to lift his spirits. I bought a card with a little sun on it and wished him all the very best. I thanked him for his wonderful music and for the joy and the tears it had brought me. I tried to explain to him that, even though I didn't know Brian personally, I felt connected to him through his music. I ended with a Beach Boys quote, "I guess I just wasn't made for these times." I placed the card in a Pet Sounds green envelope and mailed it to America. Weeks later, the fan club posted a photo of Brian, clearly looking better. He was sitting outside at a table with a mountain of envelopes. Among all the white ones, I immediately spotted my green envelope. Brian had received my card and probably read it too. He thanked everyone for their heartwarming messages. I find hope in the thought that I was able to let Brian know, while he was still with us, what he meant to me. I truly consider the music of Brian Wilson and the Beach Boys among the most beautiful ever made. Just listen to Think About the Days, the opening track from the final Beach Boys album, That's Why God Made the Radio. To the casual listener, it might sound like a throwaway intro. To me, it's 90 seconds of pure pop perfection. Brian passed away on June 11th, but his music will live on forever. Brian has now been reunited with his brothers. I like to imagine a Beach Boys reunion in heaven. Thank you, Brian, for everything you gave this world. We are forever in your debt. Love and Mercy. And that was episode number 5, In My Room, by the Beach Boys. What do you think of In My Room? What do you think of the Beach Boys? Leave a comment below and check out all the songs from this series in the Spotify playlist via the link below. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time. And in the meantime, drop the needle, press play, and remember, we're only in it for the music.